coming up through the ranks and competing at Grand Prix for just over a year, I would think. To drive Magic Girl named Jude. Jude and Sue Hearn in the Cox Architecture Grand Prix. Fantastic feel, and Mary Hannah in the lead at the moment on 72 and a bit percent. So not only a rider but also a coach. And for those that are wondering, whips are allowable. This is a CDN, not a CDI. And that was a bell from our head of the grand jury, Mary Seafried, for Jude and Sue Hearn. So now we have Jude, big black horse. Been competing here at the last competition. In his early days, Jude was a very wimpy horse and would take exception looking at every pop line, every letter and everything. Now he's become way more confident with his environment, and again really lovely free forehand, but perhaps a little more engagement in the extended trot. Still making the most of the start for a score of 68.5 at the moment. Very elegant fronted horse with beautiful elastic front end. Half past trot to the right, fluent. Could show maybe a little more flexion. In other words, his nose could be looking a little bit more towards the direction he's going. Now the half pass left. Very nice trot, and again maybe just a little bit more supple. Still good sevens across the board. 6.5 for the half pass. Halt, nice and square. Now rein back 5 directly into trot. 1, dipped. 4, 5, good, trot. Just could step the hind leg under a little bit more in that transition. Nicely free and forward in the extended trot. Perhaps a little bit more push with equality from diagonal pair to diagonal pair in the extended trot. Little lower marks around the 5.5 for the halt and rein back. Now the passage to Piaffe, a little bit lacking energy and wanting to step back a bit with the right hind and a little bit step too forward with the left hind. Just baby steps, a little lack of balance and engagement in the Piaffe. Cleanly out to passage and directly into the extended walk. Very big horse here for Sue. Jude, all of, I reckon, 72, 73 is an enormous horse in the extended walk. Could take the nose a little bit more forward. Now the collected walk around here to 8, to M I should say, and an M transition to passage. Little collection and perhaps a little bit like trot. Now the passage is more established, more cadence and more lift, but the transition itself a little bit flat. And coming into the Piaffe, starting to get there now. Very good rhythm with the front legs. It's just the hind leg a little bit, one long, one short a little bit for those bigger marks. quarters to the left on the long side in the canter. That's going to maybe take a tiny bit of a mark off or a feeling of coming down a little in the score. Straightness is really important now in the 2-time changes. Looks a little hard work, perhaps, in the contact for the 2s. I'm having a bit of a look at something at sea. Mary said if his water bottle, maybe you wouldn't know with Jude. He has a great imagination. 6s for the 2s. Now the centre line and the zigzag. Maybe it could just, for the bigger marks, show a little bit more lightness, and the quality of the canter a little lacking, and the last change was a little bit together behind, just losing that activity. Now the 1s, 9, 10, 11, 15 1s, well done. For a big horse, that made it look a little bit heavy in the 2-time changes. The 1-time changes, it made it relatively easy now into the canter pirouettes. A very big, strong horse should be able to really stepping a little out. Maybe just 4 to 5 steps. It should be between 6 and 8 steps to come around in the canter pirouette. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just a little bit more activity and shortness and quickness in the canter, and she would find it easy to get an extra stride. That transition should be to trot, and it was absolutely through walk, so that will be an interesting mark to see what happens there. It should be a 4 and a 4 and a 6, but it should be canter trot. As much as it sounds easy, it's not such an easy transition. Maybe a little too much cadence for me for coming around the corner in the trot, and then there's no real clear transition to passage, which should be done at D, the first marker down the centre line. Now the piaffe from the front looks really nice, and the same in the passage out, and the transition's clear in the rhythm. We've got some 7s for the piaffe and 7s for the transitions, more 7s for the passage, so we're on a 65.683 for Jude at the moment. So completing their test in the Cox Architecture Grand Prix, our Olympian from Rio, Sue Hearn, and Jude, the big black gelding, very elegant big horse by Jive Magic. Of course, Jive Magic being one of the Ryan's horses, many well-bred horses and great competition horses bred by Heath and Rosie Ryan. So we wait for score for Sue Hearn and Jude, and of course the score to beat is going to be 72 and a bit % from Siriana and Mary Hannah, another of our Australian Olympians competing here at Willinga Park. Sensational venue. For those of you that haven't been here, if you're down this way, you really should get a look. Terry Snow inspired Cox Architecture